So I'll hand it over to Dr. Sahana. Dr. Sahana, if you can also introduce yourself to everyone. Yeah. I've already mentioned that you've joined the CWP program as a supervisor and a trainer, overlooking the overall program. Yeah.
Okay. So hi everyone, and I really thank you all to take out this time and come for the training. And
Dr. Sahana's voice is
I
cutting for me.
hope
Is it
you have
cutting?
received the email.
Yes.
Okay, so I am actually a child and family therapy, and I have been working. It's cutting.
Yeah, it's cutting.
Should we turn off our videos or?
Now, is
No.
it clear?
Yeah, I think your audio is clear. Go ahead.
Yes, or shall I change my connection? Okay.
Your audio is clear.
So
Yeah.
okay. I think there's a lag. When I'm hearing you, there's a lag.
It's clear now.
Okay. So as Eliza has introduced me in one line, that's a good line, a psychologist and a researcher. And yes, I have been involved in research and my academics and also the counseling. And recently I have joined the CWC program, and I am into counseling the workers. So all the calls you are receiving, few of the callers, they come to me, so it's a nice interaction, and I will bring some of the cases to this training as well as my own experiences, your experiences. So it's like an open platform where you will be sharing with me, and I also will be sharing different things with you. So it's more of an interaction. And we will be working through the entire training step by step with the sheets, with the Padlet activity with Menti and all that. So I hope you don't get bored. And there are regular intervals as well. Okay, and it will be great when you are sharing something with me, you open up your cameras because it's good to have a face with the name because you all are new to me. Yeah. So I will now begin sharing my presentation.
You guys hear me?
Yeah. Yes. I think, yeah, we can. So you can mute yourself.
Shara, if you can mute yourself.
Okay. So my screen is visible because somebody is in the waiting room. Okay. So let's see. The topic is cultural competency, and you must be thinking, okay, we know about the culture and all the different aspects. So I just want to be like, we will be going into the different layerings of the culture. And since we all are here from the different cultural backgrounds, so I think it will be great that you contribute your side of example so that I know you a bit more than the name. Okay. So the outline of the training is, as you know, it's all for 3 hours, and the entire training is divided into three parts. But we will start with a short introduction of 30 minutes, and those three parts. First, we will focus on the culture and the belief system, your belief system, and then we will do the more applicability part. Then part two is more about the culture and the emotions, because sometimes the minute things about the emotional aspect we tend to ignore or we take for granted. So there are various things in about when we talk about culture we do take for granted, and our focus of this training is to bring over those kind of taken for granted assumptions. Then the last part will be focusing on the cultural and the communication aspect. And then we summarize, and your feedback, if we have the time, we can go for that, or you can just write to Elise about the workshop. Okay, so moving forward, the focus of the training is there are three main focus. First, to talk about the cultural knowledge which you have, which I have, and let's see how it goes about. Then, do you think are you a culturally aware person? Uh, I thought so. I am for me, but since the time I relocated to Bahrain, I'm from India, and coming to Bahrain, then when people started asking me different kind of questions related to India, India is so vast that I then used to Google about it. So then I thought, no, there are certain things we actually don't know about a culture, and we should not assume. And for when I came to Bahrain, there were many assumptions about me as well, which I will be talking about, and how people see you just because you are belonging to a culture, then how they tend to label you because of the culture and the gender you have. So there are many things which is missing and which is actually misunderstood many times. And the last one is when you know about your culture and you think you are okay, 80% culturally aware person, then what are the skills you can use as a hotline worker, the cultural skills when you're dealing with the caller? Because again, I'm saying you will get to know more as we progress further about how you have to deal with the caller. I know you have been into the different kind of trainings with Elise about listening actively, being empathetic, unconditional positive regard. Those are very, very essential skills, and you are aware of them. So let's focus on something little bit different. Okay, so here comes when we are. So when we are understanding any of the individuals, it's important that we take into account the cultural context. Okay, so yes, I know the calls which come to you are of the people who belong to your culture. So you know that, okay, this person is having the same cultural background as I am. But then what is different? Okay. So how do you understand the culture of the person? This is a question for all of you here. So when I say I am an Indian, okay, so how do you understand my culture then? Yes, Rasha?
So I usually like know more about people's cultures because I watch like so many movies, like from
Okay.
different places and soap operas and all of that. And while they might not always be so true to point, but like you get a general idea. Like an Indian culture, I feel like it's more close to the Arab culture. You know, we're conservative. Girls will not go outside at 2 a.m. on their own, things like that. So yeah,
Movies. That's
movies
interesting.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yes. What about knowing an Indian person?
Oh yeah,
Interacting
I've
with
known a
one.
lot. I've known a lot in my life. Like
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Good. Any kind of stereotypes that comes to one's mind when we say, okay, I say I'm from India. That is also how we understand the other person's culture, right?
That you smell like curry.
Okay, Aliza. Yes, we all are like, I think Indians are famous for this curry thing. And yeah, a very good point. When I was living outside and I was finding a place for myself, I was living in Dublin for some time. So most of the places where I was hunting a single room, then they were saying that, oh, Indian, will you cook lentils? Will you cook this? So it was like we were already seen through a lens of that, okay, these Indians cook curry and there will be whole kind of smells in the house. I said, no, I am a very simple cook. I will do something about it. So finally, one lady agreed, and she kept me for some time. And then I started cooking my lentils. And I had to share with her, and she loved it. So she said, I'm a safe Indian. See the kind of labeling they had. So she had in mind that an Indian who eat meats is not safe. An Indian who is a vegetarian is a safe Indian. So she started introducing to her friends that she's Sahana and she's a safe Indian because she cooked lentils. So imagine the kind of stereotype one has about without knowing. And it was a first interaction to the Indian people she had. And then I slowly and gradually got to know that, okay, these are the stereotypes and it's all right. Some things I have to avoid, ignore, and sometimes I have to fight for those kind of stereotypes. So how do you understand the culture of the person? A, based on the past knowledge which we have heard something from somewhere, and we say, okay, I heard it or I read it, like Rasha said that she has seen the movie. So you have an idea. So that's the knowledge you have. And then you are interacting, like we have friends and all, but suppose there is no interaction, there's no friend, then what you do? So you also start reading about a culture, right? So when I was coming to Bahrain, I actually started reading about the culture of Bahrain in terms of the food, clothing, the rules, the restrictions, because I had nobody who was there in India from Bahrain. I have heard the stories that people go to Middle East, but how is actually living? Because the families go to Middle East. It's like me being a single Indian woman was traveling to Middle East. So my reading about the culture was very different. Then we come to the last, as I told you, the stereotypes. Now, stereotypes are also good to have because stereotypes help us to have a certain kind of safeguard image. When we have those kind of stereotypes, we also are a bit cautious about other person and we give them a chance or may not give them a chance based on those stereotypes. Okay. So like I had a stereotype when I was doing my PhD. So I had a stereotype. I wanted to interview the couples. So my negative stereotype was that when I will be interviewing husband and wife, a wife will share more stories as compared to a husband. That was in female and male perspective and the stereotype I had. So interestingly, when I actually started interacting with them, it was the husband who was sharing so many stories and the wife was like so hesitant. And on the sensitive topics, I thought the woman will speak more. But no, it was the men who were speaking more on the sensitive topic and very nicely they were saying. So that completely broke my stereotype of that men won't share or they will not talk about the sensitive issues as compared to a female. So this was again being an Indian in the Indian culture. I had this stereotype, and that's why it is again a taken for granted assumption. And in the process of research, it is a very good aspect that it teaches us that actually, when you go to the field and you are dealing with the participants, you are dealing with your callers, always write the set of the kind of assumptions you have about a person, their gender, about the culture. Because how are you looking at a person through your, whether you're looking at the person through your stereotypes or you are just looking at the person as it is. And it's very difficult to look a person as it is because we are not saints or don't have a detached perspective. So it's a good practice. So as I think it's a good practice that if you for a next call just slide down a set of stereotypes, and there is an activity also we have so that you become more aware of the what we are talking about. Okay, so this was some small kind of a survey which was done that when I asked a group of my students here that when you want to learn best about the culture, what is the best way to learn? So it was just more of them said that it is reading about other cultures is the best way rather than just observing the other culture or asking Google. Now Google is Google is like it is you have to use Google very cautiously because it may or may not give you a good information, and it is more about the representations it gives you. And asking the members of other culture is again a good idea. So reading and asking again came out to be on the higher side. Then next one was to avoid making the mistakes in your, how do you avoid making a mistake in a culture you are? So again, reading came out to be the topmost that you read. When you read, you get to know, you become more observant, and it's not necessary that you have to be born in a particular culture. You can always adapt yourself. And this was again was very interesting because my assumption was that when I came here that people don't read much. They love to follow something which is on Instagram or on YouTube, but they don't read. But when I got the responses from the student that they want to learn about the other culture through reading, again it broke my stereotype which I had. So this is something which is one has to be mindful of these kind of patterns when you are in a setup. So my question to all of you is, when I ask you a question of what is culture, then what does it mean to you? What is culture to you? Yes, Laila. And then Annie.
Hi, sorry, I cannot switch on my camera. I really apologize for that. But
Hmm.
culture to me is like I see it as how people dress and what their mindsets are. Just like
Okay.
Rasha said that, some cultures don't prefer girls to be out late at night.
Hmm.
Also, like the type of food they eat. As you mentioned, that some people are vegetarian, some people have like bad like assumption about people who eat meat. So some of them, like our assumptions are not always correct. So we have
Hmm.
to like read about other cultures to actually know, instead of like judging other people. So that's what I feel culture is.
Okay, good. Thanks, Leila. And Annie?
For me, culture is something like a tradition in one's country. It's like their custom practices,
Hmm.
that has been that has been inherited from their, ancestors and everything
Hmm.
like that. Mm, it's like more on tradition and practices for me in one's country. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very true. The kind of rituals which we do, the kind of cultural customs which we actually follow, it's all the part and parcel of the culture. Okay, yes, Nadeem, and then Muqaddas.
Hi everyone, hi Dr. Sahana, nice to see you after a long time.
Yeah.
Well, Annie took my words. I think she can read my mind. So I'll rephrase whatever was on my mind. It's like
Mm.
a copy paste from generations with
Mm-hmm.
sprink of some spices. I mean, you are not
Okay.
doing exactly what your ancestors were doing. You definitely added something to it, but at the end, the base is same.
Hmm. Okay,
That's
that's very, very interesting. I'm going to use your statement in the upcoming slides because that is what also I'm going to talk about, what Nadeem has talked. Copy paste and as well as you sprinkle your own spices. Very nice, Nadeem. Okay, Muqaddas. Muqaddas, do you want to share?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, culture is the lifestyle that people
Hmm.
are living.
Okay, good.
Uh, um, they wear, what they think, what they celebrate, society of individuals.
Yes.
Can you hear
Feelings,
me?
what they're celebrating. It's your voice is breaking. And okay, we will go next to Manal and then Emma.
Yes, I'm going to say that culture also has the biggest impact on our dressings. We can say that in foreign countries, the uh, bride wears a white dress, but in India, in Pakistan, the bride wears a red dress. In Pakistan, we have also different kind of dresses, like Balochi wears Balochi dress, but the Pashto ones wears the Pashto dress. So yeah, it has the biggest impacts on attire and dressing also.
Yes, very, very right. Yes, Manal. True. We will come to the dressing part soon. Okay. Emma.
Aside from tradition, like every country has different beliefs also, like
Hmm.
like inherited from other ancestors or from all these.
Hmm.
But I think as days goes by, like
Hmm.
older beliefs, like um, as what you call this for generation, different beliefs nowadays.
Hmm.
Uh, Most of the times, actually, the teenagers or the younger ones, our younger generations, even though most of the parents they want to encourage or they want their children to apply it in daily living, but most of the times our
Hmm.
children like they didn't want it anymore.
Yes, that's true, Emma. And this is what we will be talking also about in the belief system, that how the generational belief is again, it is edited and the upcoming generation takes up what suits them. So we will talk about it in some time. So all of you have given all the correct answers, because when it comes to culture, culture is a way of life for us. This is completely the way we are thinking, the way we are. It is like you cannot take the culture out of me, and but still I am different. Right? We all are not same. We are like being from India. I'm not same. I have the different layers of my personality. So for me, my culture, what are the aspects my culture has influenced? So these are just few of the points, and they have already, like, you people have already shared with me. Number one is the belief I have about myself and my achievements, how I see myself. Like if I have achieved, if I have a work, what kind of education is mandatory for a woman to achieve, have in India. And then how my achievements are looked by my family members and then the people around me. So, like, I will just give you one example. Initially, I was in the school. Everybody was saying that, oh, this is a common in India. A girl becomes a doctor and a guy becomes an engineer. So this was a common thing, and it still is a common thing. And they said that, okay, she is getting a good grade, so make her a science student. So science, humanities, and commerce, these were. And for me, it was like I was not at all good with numbers. And everybody was after my parents that she should take up science. And it was making me completely depressed, because no matter how hard I was trying to convince them, they said, no, the grades are good, so the science. But thankfully, my parents did not follow what other were saying, and they said, okay, just let her take what she has to. And I ultimately took humanities and psychology, followed through. And then the people around who were convincing my parents and me to take up science, they said, A, she is a woman, and B, she has taken up psychology. And so what will happen to her future? No man will marry her. So this was the kind of the value system which was there, and the belief that a woman with a psychology degree is completely, because everybody will run away. And I was so surprised back then. It was like around 20 years back, more than that. And I said, okay, nice to know the views. So how my achievement is seen by my culture. And because the people start saying all those things, then as a person, you start questioning up. Sometimes you start questioning about your choices, that, okay, it is not valued. So am I doing it right or not? So this is a big question mark. So that's where you have to see that, okay, this is what Nadeem says, that this is what is was there, but what we pick up for ourselves, it is the way we are spicing our own life. That was one of the example. The way I dress up, like Emma was saying, and Hada mentioned that, yes, the dressing up is largely about the cultural factor, and how you are dressing up and how it is looked at or commented on, again, influences a lot. So many times, even in the counseling cases, nobody talks about. We just take these kind of things for granted. So when I'm giving you my example, just try to go back to your cases and think about how far you have questioned them about how they see themselves with respect to the culture. Because when I am dealing with these clients who are coming from the saya, so these most of the clients, they have this idea of achievement about they have to earn more money and they have to go back to their country and start up a business because that is what is valued. So how much hard work they are doing, or how much money they want to have, and how much they are not going for a vacation also because they want to open up a business. So why this sense of this business, for where it is coming from, why it is so important to them, these are the questions you have to actually ask your clients, the callers, because that also becomes a source of anxiety and depression for them, which again we don't think about. The food I cook or prefer. This is again, the food part is a big, big thing when it comes to the cultural, because how much of us who have traveled across a different country are willing to adapt to the kind of food. Like, yes, Bahrain has a culture, the similar kind of food which we get in India, and one starts cooking and the things are more or less the same. But what are the things that are actually missed? So when I think about these kind of questions and apply to the callers, then I think, okay, these are the things they are missing. These are the things which are not there. Is it causing a source of sadness for them? If a certain kind of food is not there, then what they are doing? Are they cooking themselves, or are they relying it? How they are, because food is a big part of a person's life when they are not in the same country. So again, just a food for thought for all of you. Next one is the way I think about a solution to the situation. Now, this is very interesting because the way our cultures are, we all are coming from, I think most of us are coming from a very kind of culture where we tend to just pick up a call and call our family members or a friend, and we want to share everything out and discuss and take their advice. Okay, that's the kind of culture. But when a person is relocating to a new country and is working there, then they don't have so many friends around. Then what they do when there is no source of sharing, how many times they can call their family members? There's a time difference. They don't want to share the stuff which may cause anxiety or stress to their family, that, oh, he or she is living alone. They will, what they are doing, and um, why it is like so much of why they are so alone, we should be with them. All those kind of questions come in the family, and that's why the person stops sharing. And it's a very usual process. The stop sharing is in how they are thinking about the solution, because if they are coming from a culture where sharing is and taking advice from others is the first thing, and there's nobody around, then who is giving them the solution? So this is again a wrong person. They are going to a wrong person, or they are going to the right person. Like, they are picking up a call and calling the hotline workers, and they want to connect to you. That is also a source of solution. The way I talk to others. This is also a very, very important, because the way I talk to my family members, the way I talk at my organization, it also depends upon how my culture is accepting it. So, I'm giving again my example first is in India, when I was teaching in different places and counseling, everybody who used to call me ma'am or Sahana. So when I came to Bahrain, it was everybody started saying Dr. Sahana. And for me, it was like, my God, why they are doing that to me? It was like I was not able to accept so easily, because it was a very strange sound for me, because Dr. Sahana was more on the official papers as compared to everybody saying that. And it was like doctor, doctor. So this also, then realized that if they are giving me this kind of respect, I also have to give them the same kind of respect. And even if I don't, this kind of doctor doesn't come, it did not come immediately in my vocabulary. It took some time. I think it took 1 year before I started calling everyone doctor, doctor here. And this was a very cultural thing which I found, because also studied in India and in Western country where I was, everybody was calling in ma'am or by the first name. And here it was very much difficult for me to call somebody from doctor or miss or mister. So still, well, I'm now much, much better. So again, you have to think that how all these patterns one has to actually practice. when they are moving to a new place. And the last one is my religious and my spiritual view. And this is a very, very personal thing because again how it evolves, how the person who is very religious in one's country, who is doing all the kind of practices, and suddenly they move to a new country and they say, okay, how my religion is accepted here, how if I am a religious person, how it is looked into in this country, and how shall I explain my religious or spiritual status to other person. So these kind of questions are very important again to think about when you are talking to your clients, because again I'm saying that these are the small small things which they really value, which nobody actually thinks about. Okay, how what I'm doing. Oh, I never thought about it. So this is just there are so many cases that are coming to my mind right now, but I just don't want to deviate here and there. Okay. Um, so I have to, okay, let me move on to a different one. So there are cultural variations within a culture. So when I say within a culture, now of course, I am sorry, but I am giving the India example again. But I really want to know more about your countries as well. So like, it's just like one of you said dressing. No, for me, I am coming from north, so my dressing is very, very different as compared to the people who are from south, west, central, or east India. So this is just one example. And like people have asked me here, why don't you wear that kind of dress? I said, I am not from that part of India. So that again, I have to clarify. Then food is also again the variation. So you have to understand one person, especially your clients, that from where, which part of the country they are coming from, which kind of food is available there, which are the things they can miss, how they are, how they dress up, what is the belief system there. So all these nuances, small small things you have to take into account. So now we come to this very nice notion of a raw culture and a cooked culture. And here I'm going to take Nadim's example. A raw culture is something which is coming from generations which our ancestors used to follow, and they used to follow to a very, very, like, in a very pure form, as it is written in the scriptures. They used to follow, and they used to obey all those kind of rules. That's the raw culture. And every country has its own raw culture, which is still prevalent in many, many small parts. And maybe our parents might practice one or two rules of the raw culture. And so, and the cooked culture is something which we s- we modify according to our lifestyle, we modify according to our workplace, and we modify according to our choices. So that's the kind of cook culture. So we say, okay, this is the way I follow it. Like for the food, I have changed my way of I when I was with that in that rented accommodation in the Western nation. There I had to modify I was not cooking the curry. I was modifying it, and I cooked differently so that it doesn't have that kind of smell in the house. So my cooking changed according to a new culture I was. Then I also started dressing up differently because the weather was too cold there, so I couldn't wear my kurtas. So I started wearing good or big jackets and sweaters, and my shopping changed. So everything and how, but still I was wearing my kurtas in between. So how I was slightly bringing in the modifications in myself, in my choices and the way of living, and the kind of modifications that were well suited to for me to adapt to, as well as well suited to communicate to others that okay, this is the way it also works. Okay, so you have to see the way you are making a transition from what works for you and how it is working for you, so that you are more comfortable, as well as you are more comfortable explaining to others that it's all right, it works. So this is a very interesting thing which I found, this concept of raw culture and cooked culture. And I think when you think about yourself here, think about that, what are the things you have actually modified. Yeah, like for the praying part, my the kind of I used to do lot of prayer back home. But slowly moving across different countries, I realized that it's not possible. So prayer is I can always pray when I am just sitting in a bus or in car in my heart, or I can just think about something which gives me peace. So that is also a form of prayer. Helping someone is also a form of prayer. So the my notions of prayer and religiosity, the spirituality has changed over years. More so because of traveling, more so because the point is that I am not feeling guilty. It helps to connect me to my roots as well. So I have made the modifications which are good for me, and they are giving me the peace and happiness, and they're not giving me the guilt. So this is the way we cook our own culture from the raw culture where we belong. And it is absolutely fine for me. But now let's come to a activity part where I would like to know all of your views. So I'm going to share a link. Have you used Padlet before? Any one of you? Okay. So Padlet is very interesting where we can actually put our thoughts on it, and I'm going to show you how. Let me put the link of Padlet. Till now it's clear what I'm talking about, or I'm too
It's
fast.
very interesting.
Okay, Rasha. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me send you a link and then I will share my screen so that you can see how it works. So just click on the link.
Dr. Sahana, with the first questions, where I come from, the country you're
Yeah,
living in or your nationality?
your nationality. So I'm just sharing my screen so that everybody knows how it works. Okay, so I can see the little robots who are typing here. So where I come from, you just have to click on this plus and you will see, just write your name first, okay? So that I know who is writing what and where I come from, like India. So China, add your name. Okay. And the interesting part is that you can see these three dots. So you can just click on these three dots and you can edit your post. So you can edit your post by adding your name, and you can also color your post. So where I come from, your original place, what are the different elements of my culture? So when you were talking about your own place, I want that when you are answering these questions, you think about the place where you belong. You are coming from which part of your country. You don't have to think about the whole country, just your part of the country. So what are the different elements of my culture here? Like I just told you what are for me, and which of these elements define me more? The norms define me, the food define me, the rituals there define me, the stories, the jokes. And the last one is, what are the three things about my culture that other person should know? Apart from saying that, oh, I am from India. No, what are the three things I would like that other person should know? I like when Laila has written conservative mindset. That's a good one. Yes, Shahir, mangoes, it made me smile. There's a big discussion that keeps on happening in Bahrain that Egyptian mangoes are better or Pakistani mangoes or Indian mangoes. So I still don't know.
I've just always thought mangoes are funny because wherever you go and they grow mangoes, there's a certain amount of people who just like will swear to you that they are the best mangoes and no
Yes.
one else has better.
Yes, yes, totally. And it's like the passion which they say with that. Yes, we have the best mangoes. So
Always a mango war.
yes, totally.
By the way, sorry, speaking of mangoes, I had a friend slash coworker when I was working in Salat who was from Kerala, and she brought me some mangoes. They were the best mangoes I've ever had. Like in UAE, flowers don't have smell because the sun just burns off the fragrance, and the fruit doesn't have taste because it's all imported. So like when she gave me those mangoes, I was like, wow. So it was like a special thing.
Yes, I can totally imagine. Kara, red color. Okay. I would like to have more knowledge about this red color. So many of you have written food, clothing. Um, okay, Nicole, honoring the dead. Okay. Yeah, Mandarin and Cantonese and not very spicy food. That's good to know. Language, yes. Manal, nice ones, yeah. The education system. I think we are also judged by the university we have taken our degrees from. It is a big judging factor across yeah, across many of the other countries. So yeah, Manal, good one. Only few of you are writing your names for the third and the fourth column. Emma. Yes, I don't know why people say with rice you become rice is unhealthy. I love rice. And being an Indian, I still love rice. And they say, how can you eat so much of rice? I said, because I love rice. And you're not from India. Why don't you have that kind of Indian, like Indian bread? So again, like a lot of stereotypes. Shahir. Shahir. Okay. Dressing, food, occasion, and language. Good. And what are the things when you are saying people should know about my culture, should know, Eliza? Please don't assume. That's so true. I think that's the first thing. Yes, I completely agree. Big hearts. Yes. Always ready to help. Okay. So, how did you find this Padlet activity when you are actually also reading the responses of your co-workers? It's very interesting to actually know that what are the themes which are all common across different countries. How do you are how you actually are defining the different elements.
It's actually very similar. I think I'm just seeing it and it's very similar.
Yes, it is. Like I think food is dominating language and the dressing style. And Annie, yes, they should know how to cook rice. Okay, we will keep that in mind. So, moving forward, I will keep the screen on, but I will stop sharing it and we will move forward. It is just a beginning point of your thought process so that you are now moving into a direction. Okay, so we have done that. You can complete your Padlet activity and the screen is on. I'm not closing that. So moving forward, we did the variations which are there within our culture, and you just did this activity and you saw that, okay, what is going on? But this Padlet also, I was looking into the different nationalities and how you are uh, working across. So the culture variations now between the cultures. So what is the thing when I am interacting, when you are interacting with the people of different culture, then what happens? I am sure that you have people different as like friends of different culture. The people you are working with are coming from different culture, right? So what happens when you are interacting with them? Anything? Do you change the way you speak or address? Think about it.
No, only if I'm speaking to someone from my own culture, because I usually have a Palestinian dialect. So if I see an Egyptian person, sometimes I would speak in an Egyptian accent, but not all the
Okay.
time.
Okay. And what about when you're addressing the person of different culture? Like I gave you the example how tough it was for me to say doctor to other person here in this culture.
It was actually very interesting to hear because for us, like the doctor is like, oh, it's such thing. So if you have a doctor on your name, then we'll have to say it, even if you're like the son or the daughter, like my son's. So when you said that you found it weird, I was like, oh, that's fun because it's our highest form of respect, like referring to you as a doctor. So yeah, even here, like people get like I had a friend who was working as doctor, and she felt offended when people would not call her a doctor. So it's just like I studied all these years. You have to say that.
So you see how it is perceived. For me, it was a source of irritation initially, but then I got used to it. And now it is more normal. So how the things which are a little bit different when we are interacting with the people of other culture, and how it slowly becomes much more normal to us. Like again, it's very interesting. One example I think I was giving earlier, like again, moving to a Western, I think Westerners, they speak, they say a lot of thank yous. Thank you, thank you, thank you a lot. So, what happened when I went to this college in Dublin? So, this bus driver, and, everybody who was getting off the bus was saying thank you to the driver. And I thought it's very weird. It was my first bus ride, and I was going to get off, and the driver looked at me in a very bad way, like, how the hell you are getting off the bus without saying thank you? It was that kind of look. And then I realized that, okay, I need to adopt this. Again, I took some time, when then I started saying thank you a lot, and I was there for quite some time. So it became the part of me saying thank you to a bus driver. So when I moved back to India, Indian buses are full. They're crowded, jam-packed. And when I was getting down and I looked at the Indian driver and I said thank you, and he was like, really a mad person? Are you crazy? Like it was that kind of. So the two kind of people, one Irish driver and one Indian driver, they both gave me a look that I'm crazy. One because I was not saying thank you. Another that why the hell I'm saying thank you. So how we learn when we are moving across the culture. So now I am like this thank you is like it has a different stories for me when it comes to interacting with people of different culture. I think Ashwak and Emma have raised their hand. You want to share?
Hi, this is Ashfaq from Bangladesh.
Okay, Ashwak.
So I want to share something like when I speak to another person, I try to speak in a way that they would understand. Yeah, and usually when I travel to India, I try to speak a little bit in Hindi, though I don't know exactly like fluent Hindi speaker. I'm not fluent Hindi speaker, so so that they understand. Like, yeah, I try to speak Hindi.
That's good. This is what I'm asking, that how you are modifying your bit of speech when you are interacting with a person of the different culture as well as of the same one. Because a person who comes from the same culture as your may be belonging to a different community. So their way of talking, their way of addressing or giving you respect and expecting respect may be completely different. So you have to always modify the way you are speaking, right? Anybody else who has raised a hand? I can see three participants, so I think Fariha.
Yes, hello, this is Faria from Pakistan team.
Okay.
When interact with people from different countries, the important part is communication, language.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
is totally different. So I always try when I interact from different country people, I always try to adopt their way of talking
Hmm.
or what the language use. Like if they speak Hindi, so I try to speak on Hindi language, and if they speak in English, so I try to speak in English, or I adopt the way of talking. Like if they speak very friendly, so I use the same language and I use the same way of talking with them.
Yeah.
So the language is the most important part when we interact from the different culture and different countries of people.
Hmm. Good one. Yes, and how you are speaking, how you are actually using the words, and how much time you are giving for each of the words, the pacing of the words. So sometimes one can be a very fast talker, You are from the same place, but you are talking very fast, so other person will not understand. So how you are choosing to talk also slowly in a medium tone, that also is very, very important when you are picking up the phone and talking to the person. Again, all the psychological aspects are important, but this is the behavior. Talking is more of the behavior process, and then it comes the psychological one, to think and to talk. So the first one, I am going to do this acculturation. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the process, but I will be covering that in a while. So when I interact with the people of different culture, then what happens? It shapes my thinking about the other cultures, right? How I'm thinking about others, and then how I'm thinking about myself in relation to the other culture. Does it influence the way what I like to eat? If I'm interacting with, and if the person says that, oh, this is very good, you should try out, and will I actually make an effort to try out what they are saying that it's good? Like if I think there's one Vietnamese colleague, and she said that I make things with the fish sauce. So I said, okay, fish sauce, I've never used it. So I actually went to the grocery store and I bought the fish sauce. And interestingly, I started cooking with it, and I said, oh, it's nice. The noodles taste different rather than just the soya sauce or vinegar. I trust. So how I just picked up one of the ingredient which they are using, and I found it nice. So how it is influencing. Then next is the way I dress up. Do I really want to see and try how the people from Arabic nations are dressing up, or in India also there are different styles of dressing. How open I am to actually try out the dresses. Maybe for a photograph, yes, but not for my daily living. The way I talk to others, like we have just covered. So what happens when I have written the word acculturation on the screen? It means that you are actually, when you move to a different country, think about the workers who call you, the callers. They are moving to a different country. Okay, they are adapting the new kind of behavior, the new kind of things to eat, and everything is new for them. So the acculturation is a process when the person is actually adopting all those kind of new things which are in a culture they have just relocated to. And this is and this also takes a lot of time. This takes adaptation. This takes the kind of adaptation in mind, body, and behavior. But it is also giving a lot of source of stress. It becomes a source of stress when we are, the environment is new and you have to actually mix up with the people. You have to make yourself familiar with the new place. You want that other people should accept you, like you, because you're going to be with them for a longer period of time. So how far you are willing to change certain aspects of your behavior, that's the process of acculturation. Okay, so think about it. So when the clients they call, so like this one person, it was very interesting. He's this one person who was from Pakistan and working in Saudi. His basic problem in the was food. He said, I am not able to find a similar kind of food. I miss this and I miss this. So I said, okay, so do you like this kind of buttermilk? He said, yes, I really miss the buttermilk and I'm not able to find it. I said, okay, if you try this brand, because the brand was similar in Bahrain. So I told him this brand. And the next day he sent me the picture of the buttermilk, and it was like, I'm so glad that I found the same thing. I was going mad that I'm not able to find this kind of taste and all. So this is the small thing of buttermilk, and he was trying to adapt to the different kind of things, but still he was missing the taste back home. What was this like? And when he was able to find it, it was like, okay, now I can relax. So how far a person is adapting oneself, their choices, the food preferences, and how far they actually, this is a gap, the gap that happens. And some people again, they adjust quickly than others. So I will be talking more about this process, but in a while. So you see that when we are talking about the culture variations between the cultures, it is just like if you see the breakfast of different countries, how it is different. in India, Ireland, Bahrain. These are few of the countries. I have put the examples here because I have traveled to these countries and I am now more familiar with the kind of breakfast. So you see, the breakfast of Bahrain is quite a big spread, and in India as well, as compared to the Western countries where they are just okay with a croissant or a coffee. Then how we are greeting each other, again, it's a very big important thing. How the handshake is perceived. Handshake is very, very common in India and in Western nations. To put a kiss on the cheek is again very common. Then in Malaysia, people greet with by putting their hand on the chest. So how you are actually greeting, and you have to learn these small, small things when you are traveling across, so that you are more cautious about how you have to behave, and second, you are also in a place where you are respecting the other person, because when you do that, then they start trusting you. That's the first place. And the dressing part, which we have already discussed, right? Okay, so I'm going to show you one interesting video before we go on a break, that how these small things which we have discussed and which the aspects which you have put on Padlet, um, this video is like an interesting one which brings everything together. So I will just share the video here now. Any questions till now? Okay. Can you see the video?
Yes, but it's
Yeah.
not playing it.
Yeah, okay. So this is these are the group of students from different countries who visited Italy, and I found this very interesting because what we have just talked about. Let's see how these students perceive that.
This is soup and rice. Bread with butter, yeah. And coffee.
Eggs and like ham or bacon and like maybe hash browns or toast.
Cereal. In Australia we have a cereal called Wheat Bix. I like it.
We have so much bread and cheese and cucumber and tomato on the breakfast, and also the olive.
If it's a good friend, we kiss or we just hug.
Well, I say hi and we shake our hands or just...
We say merhaba and we kiss on the cheeks.
Hey, how's it going?
You kind of just say hi and just talk.
Konnichiwa. A kiss on the cheek. Hey, tudo bem?
Hallo, hoe gaat het? En dan give a kiss on the cheek.
Everything. Everything. Hug, kiss, and touch and know what's up.
güzel.
Very good. We just say it, we don't show it with our hands. Yummy, I guess.
楽しい. Bilmiyorum.
I don't know.
No lo sé.
I don't know.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice.
By the dawn's early light, gloria al bravo pueblo que el yugo lanzó.
Mexicanos al grito de guerra.
Korkmazı mezbu şafak.
Einigkeit und Recht und Freiheit.
Ich spreit gästa vosso nus.
Voor vorst, voor vrijheid en voor recht.
Det er et yndigt land. Det står med brede bøge. I don't remember. Na 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 na.
Iwa o donarite koge no usu made.
Late, a lot.
Loud.
You use a lot of hand gestures.
Las italianas son lindas. Las venezolanas son bellas. That were really rude.
Laid back.
Stupid farmers. But that's not true.
That we drink a lot and that we are very happy and blonde. Being kind, nice, and do not separate people. Don't being racist.
To be polite, family is important.
It's really important in the United States to be a hard worker, be kind, always treat others the way you want to be treated.
Respect for yourself and others.
Respeto hacia mi familia.
Respect. Honesty.
Being polite, saying thank you and sorry when it's necessary, and being friendly, just always.
To have a good overview about your organization. Have a good overview about time. Be always on time. Not be lazy.
To work hard, always do your homework, and I'll pass all the tests.
Kartal kalkar, dal sarkar, dal kalkar, kartal sarkar.
A filha da Xuxa se chama Sasha.
Tres trigues tragaban trigo con trigal. Así.
Parangarikutini Mykono.
Frische Fische. Fischer ist Fritz.
Knappe kappers kappen knap, maar de knecht van de knappe kapper kapt nog knapper dan de knappe kapper kappen kan.
I'm a really bad artist. I'll try though. Okay.
Okay, is it done?
Yeah, I guess.
So you see that how the different gestures and the stereotypes, they are aware of the stereotypes. And at least one thing is common, that this, I don't know, this gesture is common across all the countries. I don't know. So I thought that this was an interesting aspect to bring when we are talking about the culture differences, how we are looking at each other through those cultural lenses. And just one last bit here. Wait. So I just want to ask you about when we say, where does the culture exist? So culture exists, as we have already discussed, that it exists in your traditions, in your values, in the customs, everywhere. So I thought that, okay, even I think the language we have covered, the working schedule, it's very interesting because how you are used to, how many hours you are used to working in your culture, and suddenly if there is a shift and from 5 to 6 hours you have to work for 8 to 10 hours, and you have to respond to the deadlines immediately, how you're actually responding to an email which is urgent, which they say it is urgent but is actually not urgent. That is also very, very culture specific. Yeah, so I will again here in India, the attitude about working is like it's called, actually, it is officially called the Chalta Hai attitude, which is called, okay, don't worry, everything will happen in its own merry time. So the sense of urgency is not so much. But when here I came and there were a lot of emails I received that Dr. Sahana, this is urgent, this is deadline, this is urgent. And this used to give me so much of stress that everything cannot be urgent. Everything cannot have so many deadlines. And initially, I was taking it so seriously that there is a deadline, deadline, deadline. And I was working like a robot. And then I realized, no, nobody bothers. Like, nobody bothers. It's just the way of saying things, which is like there's a deadline, but actually, there's a difference between the internal and the external deadlines when we talk about. So this was again very, very differently placed in the, I think in Bahrain. I will not say about the Arab culture because I have not worked in different parts of Arab countries. And in the Western nations, when I received an email, there was no sense of urgency. They used to frame their emails in such a way that, okay, this is a task, this is what you're supposed to do, and it will be great if it is done according to this time. And because the email was written with such a manner that I never used to get stressed about it, I used to actually make a time management system and work on it. So working schedule, how a country, a culture looks at the work in hours and how they actually plan the schedules of the different workers, again contribute a lot when you are doing the counseling of your workers, because there is a huge change. So you have to take that into account. Clothes and dressing, we have talked about. Mannerism, yes, like doctor is one of the example, but manners, how they have to address their superiors, how they have to talk to their juniors, how you have to talk to the person who has the same level. Again, it is very different from one culture to another, and you have to talk to me more about on that. Jokes, the sometimes the jokes which are very comfortable in your culture maybe completely humiliate the person of belonging to a different culture. So how, and the jokes can also be taken as racist, which is again a big chunk of discussion. So jokes again, may not be like a thing that, oh, we did not think about it, but yes, it is a thing which we have to think about it. Celebrations, what are the things which are back home which are not there in the new country, and then again we have to modify it. We have to look for the people who celebrate those kind of things with you. Folk art, food, child rearing methods, the notion of families, to talking to your families, how many times you have to talk to your family, which is actually considered normal, right? Because when you are traveling in a different, again, the different culture, they see, oh, you pick up your phone, you talk to your mother every day. Oh my God, you're so strange. Whereas in India, talking to parents or sibling is very common. You talk to them and you pick up the phone. But here it's like somebody told me that, oh, you talk to your family every day. I said, yes. Is there a problem? No, it is so strange because they were not coming from my culture. They thought, okay, this behavior is so strange talking to the family every day. Now I say, okay. So, religion, medical care, how the insurance policies are developed from one country to another, whether it is a private insurance or a public insurance. These questions you have to take into account when you're talking about, especially in a setup where you are working as a hotline worker. Okay. So remember just one thing, that yes, the blue thing is your culture. You are the part of the culture, but you're also away from your culture because you have your own set of personality. You define it. You have your own way of learning style, and the way you are responding to the situation, the way you are making the choices of your life, you are different. But again, you go back to the culture, you come out of the culture. So there's always a swing that happens, and you cannot deny that, but you have to be just aware of that. Okay, so we will come to the activity part a bit later. Let's take this cultural competency work training, which is what is the competency. When we talk about that, it is bringing together all your behavior, attitudes, and policies effectively as an individual so that you can work in an organization taking into account the cultural beliefs and behaviors and needs of your consumers and their community. So whether it is a blue collar worker you're dealing with or the white collar workers. So that's the basic essence of the cultural competency, bringing together your knowledge, bringing together it effectively, that is more important, being aware of it. Okay, so let's take a 5 minutes of break and then we will do our sheet one. Okay, okay, see you soon. So I think most of you are now. So let's start with our part one. We have done our good introduction and you know now what to expect further. So before I start with the culture and the belief, I want that you should pull out your activity sheet one, which Aliza has emailed you. And I will also be sharing the screen with you so that you know what you're doing. Um, so just take out your activity sheet one. So what you have to do is you have to write your name and the language you're using for your hotline work. And you, because you have done the Padlet activity and we have also done the subculture discussion, think about the various aspects that you will keep in mind while interacting when a client calls you from your own culture. Okay, now remember, so what are the things you will keep in mind? So I want at least minimum 4 things. Think about it. Who are the clients who have called you? If they were coming from which part of the country, which kind of community, and what are the aspects now you will keep in mind while interacting with them, which you thought that, okay, you might have missed it after we have done this discussion. Okay, I give you around 6 minutes, 6 to 7 minutes. Then the second question is, are there any kind of stereotypes associated with the aspect which you have mentioned above, which as a hotline worker you should be aware of? Like I told you, my stereotype as a PhD student that men will talk less and women will talk more. That was my notion, but it turned out to be exactly opposite. So that was the stereotype I had. So this I will be very careful about when I'm interacting with a client of a same gender or a different gender. This is just one example. So this is the way you have to think. So if you're writing for the first, in the first box, then correspondingly, is there any stereotype which is there in your culture which you should be careful about, positive or negative? So there will be 4 points, not 5 then. Okay, begin. Just put it on the chat box or raise your hand if you have finished. I'm not going to ask you individually, but I just want to know that if you have finished. And if you want to share any one of the stereotype. Yes, Marva.
I can say it out. I'll not write it in the
Yeah.
chat. Okay. I like for me, I think communication style will be a kind of a stereotype because the part where I'm from, and like for like in the Arab world, we all have a different communication style. So
Hmm.
this is also a stereotype, especially the dialects.
Yeah, that's good. So you will be careful on that.
Yes.
That's one of the stereotype. Good. Yes. Good point. Thank you. Anybody else wants to share? What is the thing you will be careful about? And a stereotype which you thought it has. Yes, Annie. Annie, you have done or you want to share? Okay, you can type it here. So I'm assuming that most of you have done this sheet, and please save it because you have to send it to Aliza. Cultural sensitivity. I will be aware of the cultural norms, values, and practices within my own culture. Yeah, that may influence the way I and the client perceives to communicate the information. That's good. Now, norms, values, and practices, yes, these are the three very, very, very broad aspects. So, if you are thinking about the norms, values, and practices, try to think about one particular norm or one particular value and one practice that you will be careful about or think about, right? So, like, I will, Leila, okay. Leila, you can share or you can type it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so for me, it's like there are clients who actually, like the calls we get usually, so they're men, so they're like expected to support the family, and usually I get some type of like, people, they're like talking to me about their family. They're like, I work so hard here, but my family back home or my wife back home is like, send more money. So this is one of the things that I get most of the time, and which I understand because it's there in my culture that men are the providers for the family. So I always try to keep that in mind, and in the future I'll keep that in mind.
Good. Yes. Good. Thanks, Leila. So moving forward, there are different norms. Like one of the thing is that because when I was talking to different callers for you and workers for me, so what I realized that I initially all the cases which I used to get were like they were already married and family back home and they are living here solely. So the counseling was very different. So once the case called, and I assumed that was my stereotypical thinking that okay, this guy will also be married, and I was talking, and then in the second session, I asked him that are you married? He said no, I am single, and this. Then the whole conversation, the whole kind of session changed because the kind of problems he was sharing and the support system which he has back home, it is not wife, it is a sibling. And then the entire the dialogue between me and him changed when because I just assumed, okay, most of the people who are migrating, they are leaving their families back home, and most of them are married, most of them have children back home. So with that kind of mindset, so this kind of one case made me realize that no, I don't have to assume, I have to ask, keep on asking, because every case is different. Okay. Moving forward, I can see some people are still typing. Are you almost over with the sheet? And just give a thumbs up. Okay, I will still continue then. Done, Nadeem. Thanks. Okay. So moving forward is when we are saying about because the part one is more about the beliefs and the values we come from our culture, and this culture has many different layers. So we can talk whenever we are talking about the culture. There are different ways a culture is defined, but there are different kinds of culture. Like one is the individualistic culture, which is a very Western culture. Why it is individualistic? Because they focus on the individual achievement. Whereas there is another kind called the materialistic culture. Materialistic is any kind of guesses? What is a materialistic culture? Where
Focused on money.
yes, money is one aspect. Focus on mobile phones, focus on more of the kind.
Consumerism.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Consumerism.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
it is.
buying the best things or like things like that.
Yeah, the more I have, the better it is. The more prestigious, the more respectful I am. So that is more of the materialistic culture. Um, okay. And another form of culture is a collectivistic culture. So most of the Asian cultures are collectivistic, like India, then Pakistan, then Japan, Vietnam. All these are the collectivistic culture because they focus on that if you are achieving something, you are adding to the value of the entire family. It's a whole family that achieves together. So when you are earning, you are also contributing to taking care of your family. Okay, that's the ideology of the collectivistic culture. So the whole notion actually is very different when it individualistic and collectivistic. Materialistic is one, and then there is also another one called the non-materialistic. Now the thing is that these are just one of the kind ways to understand the different kinds, but again in the collectivistic culture is also there is the individual person who is there who forms its own culture within. So you have to take that in mind, that we have our own policies, we make our own policies to live our life, own practices to live our life. Okay, so no matter how much we are deeply rooted in our family system, still we have our own kind of notions that okay, how much I have to share with my family and how much I don't have to share. What are the things I have to do only for myself? And it is not that being from a collectivistic, oh no, no, I cannot take care. Because what happens, women who are coming from more of the collectivistic, they will say that, oh no, no, I have to keep my needs secondary. I have to think about my family first. I have to think about my husband first. I have to think about my mother, parents first. So this is the entire notion of the collectivistic. But yes, in that collectivistic, she can also take in charge that, okay, I'm thinking about them, that's all right. But I have to take care of myself so that I can take care of them as well. So then that becomes an individualistic culture ideology. So this kind of demarcation, it's not very like rigid, it is more fluid, but also it really forms and shapes our mind. I'm going to show you my one of the video here so that you are more clear. But my question to all of you is that do you understand you belong to which kind of culture? Oh, I forgot to tell you the definition of non-materialistic is more in terms of a culture that believes in the charity work, a culture that believes in yoga, meditation, which is not equivalent to the money. So anybody can practice yoga. Yoga is free of cost, not in Bahrain, but in India, to learn yoga. And the meditation part, you can anyways do it yourself, and you can learn the tactics, but again, it depends on your practice. So those are non-materialistic things which are very subjective. You can learn by your own self and the time you devote to it. And materialistic, as Rasha already said, equating to the wealth and the money, individualistic and collectivistic. So now just give me an idea, where do you belong? You are from which culture? Or you believe in which culture? First, you're from which culture?
I feel like, okay, so this is kind of tricky. I feel like I'm from a collectivist culture, but
Okay.
I believe in the non-materialistic culture. Like,
Nice.
because it's kind of like, sorry, it's kind of interesting because like here in the UAE, in the Arab world, we believe in charity. Like you have to do charity. You see someone poor, you have to help. So I get it, but not much about yoga and spirituality. So it's high. But as a Rasha, I do believe in yoga, spirituality, all of that nice stuff. So yeah, I feel like in between.
That's
I
good.
guess because I come
Good.
from yeah.
That's still a better answer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't know if I'm making sense, so thank you.
No, you are. Yes, I think majority of us belong to a collectivistic culture. Um, uh, we have been with our families for a long time. We don't leave houses they don't expect us to earn till the time we don't complete our college education. Whereas in the Western nations, the children are leaving home earlier. They start working earlier. They have their own separate spaces much earlier. So these are the different aspects. Even the way the working style is different, the sleeping patterns is different. Like in collectivistic culture, a child is sleeping with the parents till the age of 8 or 9 or 10, right? Whereas in individualistic, they will make it a point that the child has a separate crib and separate room. So that's very individualistic. Maintaining the identity, giving the identity to the child since day one of being born is what individualistic culture believe in. Whereas collectivistic culture, they say that identity is from us only. So you are what we are. Okay. So that's why the entire notion is also called uh, the me versus the we culture. Me is more of the individualistic culture, and we is more of the collectivistic. So, coming from India, our culture is completely a we culture. So, if I have said something to one of my relative, the entire family back home will be offended because they will feel that if I have said something, it means that she has disrespected the entire family. So they take it on themselves. It is as a separate person doesn't exist. I have said something. It is my responsibility that I have said something and I have communicated what I have
Doctor, your
not
voice cut
liked.
off.
Okay. Now, thanks, Rasha, but now it's clear. Um, just
It's clear for me.
okay. So this is the way the entire thinking changes when we are belonging to a collectivistic culture. Yes, in collectivistic, there can be, as we said, as Rasha said, that it is non-materialistic. Yes, so even in the individualistic, people can follow the non-materialistic, like the yoga. In the Western nations, the concept of yoga is very, very different. They believe in more of the power yoga, the aerobic yoga, so that has changed a lot. So how a simple thing gets different kind of flavor, that changes. I'm going to show you a video so that you are much more clear on the different practices of the individualistic and collectivistic, and how, because we are coming from a different culture, how our personality is also very different. The way we are thinking is different. So like, because I will just start with the first collectivistic. So because I think we more are from that culture, so we are very just a minute, it blocks my screen. So we are very socially interdependent. We take the decisions. When we have to take a decision, many times we don't take a decision by our own self. We will think about 100 people who are in the family, how they will think, how they will feel, and then we take a decision. So that is called a socially interdependent way of being. Then we are much more connected and more traditional, more cooperative, very obedient. Self sacrificing is a very big quality of people who are coming from the collectivistic culture. They are very, very sensitive about the opinions and the criticisms. They have a good self control. They have to have a good self control because they have to manage so many emotions in the family. So we are very good in having that kind of self control, that how to speak, how much to speak, and what not to speak. Okay. And equalitarian, thinking about the harmony, thinking about the balances in the family. That is our main thing which we think about. Coming from the individualistic, they typically follow the Western ideals. More independent, they are more self reliant, they believe in more achievement oriented. Less traditional and more achievement oriented, very, very competitive. It's all right. It's easier to resign from one job, go to another job. As similarly for the relationship, one relationship done, dusted, move on to another. So very, very practical approach to living a life. Competitive, assertive, they are pleasure seeking, they are very self assured. If they have taken a decision, it is their responsibility, it is their life. It is nothing to do with the family. But on contrary, the people from the collectivistic, they will think always about the family first. Because we are raised in a culture that makes us think and behave like that. Then individualistic, they are very self-interested, but it doesn't mean that they are selfish. Okay, it's just that they take their own needs and desires first as compared to the others around them. So I hope now this is a little bit more clear about where you are placing yourself in which kind of scenario. Okay, let me show you a video. Just let me know when you are able to see the screen. You can.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see.
Okay.
From the moment we're born, we begin to develop our identities. Who are we? What should we care about? And how should we relate to all these people around us? As it turns out, the way each of us answers these questions largely depends on the culture we grow up in. One major difference between cultures in the East and the West is how they view the individual in relation to the group. Some cultures tend to place more importance on the individual. They're known as individualistic or me societies. Many Western societies, including those in the United States, Australia, and large swaths of Europe, are considered me cultures. People in a me culture believe each individual is responsible for their own well-being. Their circle of responsibility extends only to their immediate family members, parents, spouses, or children. They view their responsibility to others in society, like their neighbors or classmates, as limited. After all, they're also individuals who should be taking care of themselves. On the other hand, some cultures place more importance on the group. They're called collectivist societies, or we cultures. Many Eastern cultures, including those in China, India, and Japan, are considered we cultures. People in a we culture prioritize strong social ties and belonging to a larger group. These groups might include classmates, neighbors, and extended families. They strive for group harmony and believe the individual should make the best decisions for the overall well-being of their group. If you take care of the group, they'll take care of you. So how does this me versus we difference shape our behavior? As it turns out, this seemingly subtle distinction has some surprising effects. Imagine two families each go out to dinner. The family from a me culture might consist of just 4 people, 2 parents and their 2 children. The family from a we culture would need a much larger table to make room for 2 children, their cousins, and multiple sets of parents and grandparents. At the meat table, everyone would order the specific meal they wanted. When the food comes, they may trade a bite or two, but for the most part, each person would eat their own meal. At the wheat table, on the other hand, multiple dishes would be ordered for the whole table. They would be placed in the center, and all members of the family would share them. Now, let's say a family member was running late. How is each table likely to respond? At the meat table, people are expected to be masters of their own fate. So when teenage brother Lee arrives late, the family is more likely to attribute his tardiness to some fundamental aspect of Lee's personality, like assuming he is lazy or irresponsible. At the we table, on the other hand, they're more likely to see Lee's behavior as part of a larger context. Rather than blaming him for being lazy, they may assume external factors were involved. Maybe there was an accident on the road, and Lee got caught in bad traffic. This tendency to either credit the individual or the larger context applies to positive things too. Say Lee was coming from a basketball game where he scored a game-winning shot. At the me table, Lee would be celebrated as the hero. His individual action won the game for the whole team. In a celebratory toast, Lee would likely speak about how his hard work, determination, and focus led him to this moment. Meanwhile, at the we table, the team's overall victory would be celebrated. Lee's toast would more likely focus on how his teammates, coaches, and mentors led to the team's success. He may even mention a larger context, like the support of the team's school administration or fan base. Both of these viewpoints are true. Lee's actions secured the victory, but the team's effort won the game. There is no objective, right or wrong way to think about individuals versus groups. What works for one culture just may not work for another. It's also important to remember that culture is only one of the many factors that influence who we are. So some people from a we culture may prioritize the individual, and some me culture people may value their communities over themselves. Culture is never all that we are, but as one of those invisible forces that shape us, it's well worth knowing a little more about. So the next time the behavior of someone from another culture seems weird or even rude, try asking yourself, how did they grow up to understand the world? Could my behavior seem as weird from their viewpoint? Cultural differences don't hold all the answers, but they can help us begin to understand each other and appreciate the richness and variety of human societies.
Okay, so I hope now things are much more clear about the me and the we culture and how we are making our choices and also how we are claiming our success or giving the claim of our success to other people. So everything is based on that. Okay. So now you remember that when a worker is actually saying that I have to save money, they are saving money not for themselves, they are saving to send more money. And it is a very different scene when a person is coming from a Western nation. How they are saving money, it is all for their own self. Okay. Um, okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly where I would fit in because I've grown up in a collectivist country, but the high school that I went to was a Western high school, and it taught very Western ideals, values, and we were raised in this very individualistic way. And then I also went to university in the West. And then I think social media also plays a role in how you think. So I feel like there's so much that falls under both the categories of what you showed.
Yes. Yes. Because I think the way you have defined certain of your choices of life it may be very individualistic, and for some parts it may be very, very collectivistic. So it's a mix of both. We are always living a mix of both because we are making our the choices for ourselves And when we are doing so, how much guilty we are feeling about that, how much we are thinking about others around. So a lot depends on that. So the animation was showing that how the we culture is placing a focus on the me. So it's how you're defining. Each family is defining each other. That depends. Okay. So what's okay. So this is just I think I've already shared with you about this part. What is a materialistic and non-materialistic, and you have an idea about it. Also the social media, as Eliza covered, it is on the in the materialistic culture. Like in Bahrain, I think it's Instagram is super strong, and also the Reddit. Whereas in India, it is Instagram is not so much. It is more about still Facebook and Snapchat, and TikTok is banned in India. So how the social media is actually being utilized by the consumer, it also forms a part of the materialistic culture. So now we have already watched a video. Let's go on to Menti. And I have you guys used Menti before? Okay, Rasha, good. So it's very, very simple. I'm going to send you a link, and when you are going to that link, you just have to enter the code in your mobile, and then the question will be given to you, shown to you. You just record your answer, and your answer will be on my screen. So I will just show you how to do that. Okay. So you can go to this link. And you can see that they are going to show you a code. You have a code.
Have you sent the link to everyone or just to
Yeah.
me?
Let me check. Yeah, I think only to you. Okay. Just a minute. I will share the screen and then you can. So you can see the code which is there on my screen, and you can, you can just type in the code to join 44993818. So when you open your Menti, they will say that join with a code. So this is the code which is there.
So it's not asking me for a code, but it's giving me your first question. Do you think a client who is strongly in the materialistic culture in your region, etc.?
Okay.
Same here, ma'am. Discussing the question.
Is that fine?
Okay. No, wait. Just a minute. Okay, so I will give you the go to this first. Okay. It's the same, I think, yeah. If you just go to this link and then you type the code. Now I'm going to share the screen with you. Now you can see the code on the screen. 444993818. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's taken me to the same place. And I think Nadeem is saying the same thing.
What about others? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Which, like you can see the question and the options that you have to answer, right?
No, it just says, do you belong to an individualistic or collectivist culture? Enter a word, enter another word.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. That's good. Both. Collectivistic. Okay. Interesting. A mix of, let me see how many will be in. Okay, so now I'm going to change the slide and you will have the next question. Okay. Next question with you, the way you are answering. Does me exist in we cultures? So you will have your two options or three or one. Does, okay, a big no. Does me exist in we cultures? Okay. So no is a dominant answer. Not at all. Well, I think you have to create your own me then in the we culture. You have to be more strong to create your me. No. Okay. Nice. Yeah, it's very difficult. Those who are writing no, I will say it's very difficult to create the me, and you might be termed and labeled very differently as a person, but it can be achieved. A certain me component can be achieved. Okay, I move on to the next one. How me exist in we culture? Those who have written no, but there is a chance that how me can exist in the we culture. How do you think there is a possibility that a me can exist? Good.
Doctor, one word, or we can write a sentence.
Yeah, you can write a sentence. Impossible. It's yes, in cooperation and support with other. You need others. Difficult. Okay. Once you have the money. Oh my God, that's a very practical answer. College major choice. Choice of career. That's actually a very big step to create the me. Okay.
Because Dr. Sahana, can I comment, or is that okay?
Yeah.
So I feel like through college majors also, even if you push that child, you are gonna be a doctor, and they keep failing. You as the parent, you're paying money for a failing child. So there will come a point that will be like, "Halas, go to your own major, go study your own thing." And he who has the money has the control in any situations. Why is the USA such a domineering workforce? Because they have everybody's money. Yeah. Switzerland as well. Yeah.
But you said one important point here, it's a failure. I think the failure of the choices also helps to create the me.
Exactly.
Failure.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
failing on certain things which the we wants, then you are able to actually make a point that it is not working out for me. So there is something else which I need to do for myself. So here is the failure is important component. Thanks, Rasha.
Yeah. And you can always be toxic and fail on purpose. just
No, you
a
have
tip out
to.
there.
Yeah, okay. You have to feel good about yourself as well, no? Okay. And we move on to the next one. Which kind of social media is preferred in your region?
You mean which app?
Yeah. App or yeah, it's WhatsApp, it's Insta, which is much more preferred. Okay. Still Insta is dominating. Snapchat is a very small one. TikTok, Insta. Okay. That shows a good trend. I think then we should all be more active on Insta if it is working more. Fine. I think.
Notice no one wrote LinkedIn.
What?
No one wrote LinkedIn. That's interesting.
LinkedIn is, I think, much more, I don't know, technical.
Professional. It's more professional than social.
Yeah, you're right. And the next one is non-material culture in terms of meditation or yoga a significant influencer in your culture?
Can you explain the question, Doc?
As a non-materialistic yoga or meditation or charity, is it a significant influencer in your culture? Does it influence? Can you bring about, is it yes or no? Or people just think, yoga, meditation, yeah, we will do it later. That kind of attitude is there. Yes. Charity. Okay. Charity. No time for it in my personal values. Okay. Hmm. See, because when we are thinking about these non-materialist aspect, again, you have to think about how you can bring this in your calls, whether the person will be open for meditation in terms of, suppose I tell my clients, how do you meditate? They say there is no time. Then I'm sharing a music track with them. It's more like just a more classical instrumental music. And I said, now listen to it and try to concentrate on your breathing. This is the way, if you are introducing that, how much open they are for that. So this is what I'm talking about, the non-materialistic aspect, how much you can introduce in your work by actually not telling them, because sharing a musical track and telling them to just listen to it and do the breathing exercise is free of cost, and they can do it while they're traveling or going to the place of work. So there is a willingness to adapt because it is free. There's a willingness to adapt because they are more open to it. Their willingness because they think that okay, it's safe because I'm not answerable to anybody, I'm all alone, so I can at least try out. Okay. And this is the last one. Do you think a client who is strongly in the materialistic culture in your region can be shown the way to the non-materialistic culture? No. Okay. If they believe in the iPhones, the latest iPhone, the different gadgets, and their whole understanding is there, can you show them the way to a non-materialistic culture? Impossible. Possible. Depends. Never.
The issue is, and sometimes in materialistic cultures, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, you guys, but in materialistic cultures, they even choose their friends, their social circle. So if you don't make as much money as them, you will never be a part of that social circle. So
Yeah.
it's not even just, I want to get the latest phone. It's like it's embedded to the core. I'm going to this area because that's where all the people who make the similar income live
Yeah.
or visit.
It's very, very difficult. It's difficult. Yes. And it depends also. But yes, I've been with those cases where they are rooted in the materialistic tradition, and it's very, very difficult to show them the other way around. Okay. And I'm still people. Okay. So moving forward, this was a mini activity just to see that how you are thinking about these kind of concepts. And then when you're thinking about them, how you are placing yourself, then you are thinking about the wider culture of yours. So I will stop sharing the screen now and we will move forward. Okay. So there was, can you just, I will just, okay. I need to share the screen now. So moving from the culture to the cultural belief component, let's do just a bit of exercise here. Because when we are talking about the cultural beliefs, we now know more about the culture, the different kinds, and now we are going to the belief system. So whenever we are thinking about these components, actually there are so many beliefs, and I thought which one shall I include? So your belief system, and what is a client's belief system? Number one is the family system. Is also the family belief system is what? What is they think that is right age to actually complete your education? What is the right age to go and get your own work? The right age to marry? The right age to have kids? So this is also very culturally defined, and how the family is defining it, how the narrative, the dialogue within the family changes. And is the belief system which you are carrying is the same belief system as your client? So you have to think about that. So if you think, oh, a client who is 26 years of age and coming from this culture might have a relationship or might be married, so where you have to check on what is the belief system of your client. That's one thing. Second is about the mental health. How is the cultural belief which is related to your mental health? Whether there is a stigma attached to it, people are okay to talk about it within the families, or people are okay to actually pick up the phone, take the appointment of the counselor, and go for the session without telling the other family members or their friends. Or they are completely open about it. I'm having a problem and I'm going to a therapist, or I'm making this call, I'm taking an online session. How is the mental health scenario which is seen in your culture? Then what is the relationship between how you see the mental health aspect and how you think the client sees it? Because when they are making a call out of distress, then you have to see that okay, at least they are open about it to take a counseling. So that's the mental health. Again, think about it, because I'm going to talk. You have to do an activity about it. Then the nature of work. Nature of work, leaving your own country for work is seen as okay because you're bringing home the money. Leaving the country for work and leaving your family away is how it is viewed as. How the men leaving the country and a woman leaving the work is seen in your country, and then what is your belief system related to it. So again, you have to think about the three levels. The first level is the cultural belief. The second is what is your belief, and the third level is your client's belief system. So you have, whenever you are talking to a person, you have always have to maintain this idea about, yeah, this is a culture they are coming from. Yes, this is a belief system. Okay, but this is my system of belief. Let me check on that. What is the client perspective on it? And the last one is about the religious and the spiritual belief. This is again a very important aspect. So yeah, that's why these three blue columns which is highlighted, it is very, very interwoven. And whenever you are talking to even a normal, not a real client, even your colleagues, think about it from where they are coming from. Okay, let's open up your activity sheet 2. So now it is, I will just share. I give you 5 minutes to do that. Okay, so here you can see I've clearly asked you about your name and the language, and then what is the beliefs, family belief system. So cultural belief, again, three levels. Write any two cultural belief related to the family, related to mental health, nature of work, and religious and spiritual. Then what is your belief system in relation to the two things which you have mentioned? You may follow or you may not follow, or you have modified it. Okay. So or you have modified. Then the situations where you think now you will be careful on, this is third column is not for the writing. It is more to be more aware of, okay, now I have to think about these things when I'm talking to my client. So I'm more interested that you are writing the cultural belief system and your belief system related to it. And then think about one scenario where your client was calling. So your belief system matched with the client or not? Matched. Or it was parallel. Means some similarities.
Doctor, can you go back to the slide before this one? The
Before
one
this-
where it says the culture belief, where it says the religious belief. I don't remember what was the examples there. Or am I not
Okay.
supposed to look at it?
Actually,
that
you're not
cheating? I
supposed-
don't know. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
it is just it was just example I can show you. It is just I just want to see that what is the notion from coming from your culture.
Yeah, sorry. I just need to know the religious beliefs because I forgot what it was saying.
I don't. Okay.
Even if you can give me one example just to get my mind fired up.
The praying, how the praying is, I'm just sharing it, how it is, prayer is looked at.
Ah, okay, thank you
Prayer
so much.
praying is equivalent to fasting, or praying is equivalent to chanting.
Yeah.
Praying is equivalent to helping someone out or making someone smile. So
Perfect.
how the person is viewing that. That's just one of the ideas. Okay, let me know when you're done. I know all of you are typing. Or some of you are typing who are visible to me. So when I just want to do this last bit before we go on for next break. I know I have not given you many breaks and I'm sorry. So this is just one little part because you are doing this activity sheet of family belief, mental health, nature of work. So this is slide is more so to understand about the acculturation and assimilation process. So it is more in relation to the clients calling you. So I said that when they are moving to relocating to a new country, they are supposed to learn some kind of behaviors. Their nature of work changes, the way they are practicing their religion or the spiritual belief. Many things changes. These are just the four aspects I have put on screen, but there are many others and which we cannot bring everything in the training right now. So the acculturation is when what are the changes they are adapting to themselves, and assimilation is a process that they adapt to the culture so much that they are forgetting their own culture back home. That's the process of assimilation when they are tend to forget that what was there back home, that what was they doing back home, but they are just like moving to America. When the young people they move to America, they become much more Americanized version, and they adopt the values and the system so much at the younger age, then they completely forget their own culture. So the assimilation process is completely over for them. So they are completely acculturated in their new culture. Fine. So this is what I wrote about clients calling you. How much do you think is the change that happens in their family belief system? Whether it is it changes the way they value their family is much more, or it is lesser, or they rely more on the other kind of support system. That's the when the process of acculturation begins, and it is good. Acculturation is a very good process because it helps to actually adapt to the new situation and a location very well. Is their mental health affected? Of course, it is affected. And how they are now viewing, because back home, if it was stigma to talk about it, now in a new country, is it okay to talk about it? To talk about to whom and how, and whether there is a support system available. Then now the nature of work is more number of hours. Is it a more physical work, heavy work? It is much more fearful work. Whether they have to be always worried about that they are on someone else visa and what if they lose their job. So this fear factor is much more in a new country as compared to their own country. Again, it is all in the process of acculturation. How is their religious practices changed over time when they are in a new location? Have they become much more spiritual because there's no time to have those kind of practices? Actually, there's no one around to note them or actually tell them that they are not doing that. So it's okay to not be so religious and having their own ways. Again, a process of acculturation. So so when you are writing your activity sheet down, that's why I'm bringing this slide up, because it is have to, when I'm saying the client, the last column, whether it is a match, whether there is not a match, or whether your belief and the client beliefs are running parallel. So thinking about those kind of aspects is about uh, the entire belief process. Okay. Am I clear on this process of culturation and assimilation? I had a very 2-minute video, but I don't think so there's much time. But I want that when you are doing your sheets and think about these aspects. Okay. Break for 5 minutes. See you in 5 minutes then. They have a very neutral expression, and with this neutral expression, I was like, are they not happy for this news? But it is the way they are trained to depict a certain kind of emotions like that. So when we talk about the cultural specific expression of emotions, each emotion has a very different. Like for example, in some cultures, grief is expressed by weeping. It's like good if somebody is crying, it means they are sad. But in other cultures, it is like by dance or a song or even by a drink. And sometimes the grief is like just be very quiet, be very calm about it, and that is grief. Another example is if Americans are smiling more than Germans, it does not mean that Americans are friendlier. Smile is not equivalent to the friendly component. So when we talk about emotions, just keeping in mind how these particular kind of emotions are actually expressed in your culture, that's what I want to know. Okay, so moving forward, I will show you a very small video clip about about this emotional expression, and you can take out your activity sheet 3 because I'm interested in that. Okay, just let me show you the video first. I have shared the sound. Yes. Okay, so I will just play for 1 or 2 minutes and it will show you that how these kind of emotions which we are talking about and what is said about it.
The 40 or so muscles in the human face can be activated in different combinations to create thousands of expressions. But do these expressions look the same and communicate the same meaning around the world, regardless of culture? Is one person's smile another's grimace? Charles Darwin theorized that emotional expression was a common human feature. But he was in the minority. Until the mid-20th century, many researchers believed that the specific ways we show emotion were learned behaviors that varied across cultures. Personality theorist Sylvan Tompkins was one of the few to insist otherwise. Tompkins claimed that certain affects, emotional states, and their associated facial expressions were universal. In the 1960s, psychologist Paul Ekman set about testing this theory by examining hundreds of hours of film footage of remote tribes isolated from the modern world. Ekman found the native people's expressions to be not only familiar, but occurring in precisely the situations he would expect. Conversely, he ran tests with tribes who had no prior exposure to Western culture. They were able to correctly match photos of different facial expressions with stories designed to trigger particular feelings. Over the next few decades, further research has corroborated Darwin's idea that some of our most important emotional expressions are in fact universal. The degrees of expression appropriate to a given situation can, however, vary greatly across cultures. For instance, researchers have studied facial expression in people who are born blind, hypothesizing that if expressions are universal, they would be displayed in the same way as sighted people. In one study, both blind and sighted athletes displayed the same expressions of emotion when winning or losing their matches. Further evidence can be found in our evolutionary relatives.
Okay, I'm going to stop it here because I just wanted to show you that how these emotional expressions are actually judged in a similar manner, but how they are expressed is different. So just open up your sheet, activity sheet 3, which is actually on the emotional component. And I have written about the 6 emotions which are universal here. Okay. So you can see that I've asked you about the cultural expressions of emotion in your country, in your culture. So happiness, if you are that happiness, how it is expressed by actually hugging the person or by having a big smile on the face, or actually you are conveying the happiness by saying, yes, I am happy for you. This is the way it is verbally conveyed, or it is a non-verbal expression. How it is conveyed in your culture, sadness or grief, it is through the tears, or it is said that I am sad, or it is more about the grief. Like in India, there are certain parts which actually have the kind of dancing ritual for sadness, to express sadness or grief. Fear and insecurity, again, what is the expression in your culture? Is it okay to say that I am having this fear and I am insecure about it, or it is not said openly? I'm just giving you the example so that you can think. I just need one line from you, like what I'm saying. You can pick up from it. Disgust. If you don't like something and you are saying it, you don't like it, or you hate it, or you're making a very bad expression, facial expression for it, that's disgust. Or you're so disgusted by it that you just move out of the room, and it is considered completely all right. Anger, which is the most common form of anger in your culture. To actually shout, to beat up, to give a slap, yeah, or to throw things, or to just stop talking to the person. You have done for all the 6 emotions, Rasha? That was quick.
I hope I made it right. يعني, like for example, in Egypt, when we are happy, we do zagruta. So we go like, oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Do you guys do it in India or Pakistan or something like
Yes,
that? You do
I think
really?
this is one the way you're doing it. This is done in one part of the India, and it is considered as celebrating happiness. Whereas in
Yeah.
other part of the India, the same thing is considered as a sign of mourning. Yeah.
Imagine if an Egyptian goes there. So to a funeral in that part, yeah.
Yeah, so it is really a conflicting situation.
Yeah. My Dutch friend, sorry, while others are writing, let's chat. So I have a friend who was like part Palestinian, part Dutch. So
Okay.
her family was living in Egypt. She had lived in Denmark with her mother her whole life. So when she
Okay.
came to the Denmark, her father's family greeted her with, and she was just like, what are these people doing? Like, what are these sounds?
Yeah.
So it was very funny when she told me.
It is. It is. It's very actually we think that other person is crazy and other person think that we are crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I've never thought of it from an outsider's perspective because it's been like around the whole time. So when she said that, I was like, oh yeah, now I see how you can see it.
Oh yeah, Dr. Sahan, just that I don't forget the doctor thing. You know, when I was in India,
Hmm.
my surgeon and his group, everybody used to call each other sir. And I'm
Okay.
surprised, like these are doctors and surgeons, and they're calling each other sirs, and we're calling them doctors. So it's just something similar which applies over here. Here, you face doctor because you're a doctor. You know,
Hmm.
people they add engineer behind as an initial behind the name just for various reasons. But you know, these things keep lots of meaning over here because it's either one is respect. Second is some organization pay you extra allowance for having those type of initials behind your name.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. The more number of degrees you have in your name, I think. Sometimes one of my colleague is doing double doctorate. So she completed double doctorate. Then I was thinking she is already writing doctor. How she's going to write doctor? Then I asked another of my colleague, and he said that it is written as doctor. So it is written like that. And I said, okay, I have never come across any person who is writing double doctor. And yeah, so this is also a trend in academia, which I was not very familiar with. So I said, okay. I was a little bit surprised because one PhD takes so many years, and people are doing second PhD, and then of course they want to add one more doctor to their name. Uh, yeah, so it's a strange world.
I
Okay,
didn't
now
come across Dr. Square, but yeah, allowance square will be added to their salary.
yeah, so this is also one of the story. Okay, I hope you and I know you all are writing and some of you have completed. And even though we finished with our training, please take out the time to do the last bit of the activity sheet because we are just wrapping up the last point here. So the last one was we have already talked about a lot, which is on the communication, the culture and the communication part. And the entire point is just I was telling you the way you are greeting the person, the way you ask that when someone asks you, "Who are you?" How do you introduce yourself? Who are you? Or how you say, "How dare you ask me who I am?" Don't you know me? So, who are you? You always start with the name, your name, right? I am this. And then the next question is where you are coming from. So, it was like India, like many of the taxi drivers here, they will say India. They will look at me, India. I said, yes, India. Then say from where. So, immediately they have to know, the other person has to know from where. So we begin by saying the communication begins by the name itself. And when we actually read the name of the person, don't you think that you try to guess, this person is from which place, which country? The surname looks like this place, this culture, this community. So your guessing mind kicks in. Okay, so the name has the entire culture in it. The name has an entire identity. So the identity comes later on. It's the culture. We look at the name through the culture perspective. So many times when I am booking Uber, I look at the Uber driver's name. If it is a very long name, I said, oh my God, the person is from south of India. If it has a shorter name, then I try to guess. So see how our mind plays with us and we are judging with the person. So the name says with the culture we belong to, then the history we are carrying with the culture. There are certain things like India having wars with this kind of, and then it is having the conflict with other countries. Immediately it comes to our mind. And when they start thinking differently about the other person, and then is the heritage which our name carries, the parental heritage, the generational heritage. All these are in our name, and then comes later on our interest. What are our work? What is our relationship? What are the activities which we like? This is all secondary. So you see how you are rooted in your own culture, and it is when we start with the entire discussion of collectivistic. We all are collectivistic when it comes to our name, but when we are making the choices in our life, we are moving away from those dimensions and becoming more individualistic. So this concept, when you were doing the Menti questions, it was very interesting when you were saying both and when you're being individualistic. Yes, that kind of understanding is also very important when you are working as a hotline worker, but also this kind of understanding which is there, yes, a person is coming from the culture, but then these are the secondary components which are very important. Because of that, the entire personal communication is different, and then the organizational communication is different. So when we are talking about our personal communication, what is a personal communication? Personal is interpersonal. Right now, you and me talking, I am talking more, but it is still you are the listener. So that becomes more interpersonal. When you're talking to your siblings, when you're talking to your wife, husband, parents, that is all interpersonal. Every day we are doing the interpersonal communication, how we are doing it, and then becomes the intercultural. So you all are from different culture for me, right? And then also how I'm trying to modify by not choosing not to say the Hindi words which I am more comfortable, and maintaining my same kind of English tone, the pace and everything. So how it depends upon the audience which we are catering to. So this kind of questions, and now how it happens. So whenever you're doing the personal communication or the organizational one, in organizational one, I just is formal and it can be informal. How it is happening, you just say what it comes to your mind. You're just blurting out, or you are thinking first, you're framing the answer in your mind, how I have to put in this request, and then I have to say, how has your culture taught how to communicate? So this, the box which I have made on the screen is this, how you are communicating, how those words are coming to your mind. Then how it has to be said depends upon the culture, or you set a lot of reminders for yourself. That sometimes I've seen people setting the reminder, I have to say all these things to this person. They have set the reminder on this day because it is so much. They are angry with them and they have to say it at a particular time. Before that, they have to make the notes. They actually make the notes. I used to do that. It's because I found the communication very, very hard sometimes, because when you are saying certain things to other person and you're very angry with them, or you're very sad, they have made you sad or they have hurt you, you might be saying certain things which are meant, which may not be in a right manner. So it's better to write down. So this is also one of the factors which you can teach your clients, that how you have to frame it in your mind, then you write down if you are not comfortable, and then you communicate the hard topics. Okay, am I clear on this? Then we come to, so personal communication, these are the aspects which you have already done with Aliza in your earlier trainings, how you have to do the active listening, how you have to do the critical listening, and then how you are doing the empathic listening. So this I'm not going to touch, because I know you have some of the idea about the active, critical, and empathic listening. I think it's very difficult to arrive at being an empathic listener. It's better to start with being an active listener. Okay, and then is the organizational communication is very different. So right now when you are at your home, you're talking to your family members, it is all personal, but in organizational, every communication is documented. When you are talking to your clients, for how long you have talked, what is, you make the notes also, then emailing, and who you're talking to, how all the power dynamics comes into play when you're talking about the organizational communication. This is again a very big topic to be covered, but I'm just touching upon it. Okay. So now we come to the last activity, sheet 4, which you can do it later on, because it is based on the kind of this box which I had created. This one, how it happens. You can see in the activity sheet 4, I have written exactly the same things, because I want to see the component of your culture here. I will just show you. I think you all have it, I know. So this you can do it yourself. Okay. What I want from you all is in this activity sheet 4, you have to just write about your personal communication style of greeting is what? How do you greet the other person? Okay. And as a hotline worker, what is your communication style? How are you greeting your client? Then your personal style of communication, you just say what comes to your mind. But as a hotline worker, how are you thinking? You're thinking first, or you're just saying things. So you have to write that for me. You are framing in the mind first, or then you say, again, I want to know your personal and as a hotline worker. And then whatever we have discussed is just the same thing which I've put in here, but with 2 further more columns, so that you can actually think about it. Okay. So that is more or less, I am done with this. I just wanted to show you, I can email you this one cultural competence checklist, which I found to be very useful. Okay, I'm just showing you the checklist, but I can email that to you, because again, it will help you to just read and see that where do you actually lie, on which. So see, if you see that how nicely they have done the awareness part of the culture, the value, how well I know myself. I have a clear sense of my own cultural and racial identity, and how that is viewed by others with whom I differ. So I think it's a good thing that if you are able to do this checklist for your own self and see what is your understanding. Be aware of the areas of discomfort. You check your assumptions, you check your stereotypes. You reflect how my culture informs my judgment. That was the first thing I started the training with, that how is your culture informing you about your decisions and the choices you make. So this is the awareness one. Then second page is on the knowledge. Again, we have covered all these points. And the third point is about the cultural skills. How well, if you are good on the first two, then the skill part will automatically come in. Okay, the communication part, becoming engaged. If you are interested, I will email to Elisa and you can just go over this cultural competency checklist. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Sahana. This was so interesting. And I talked too much this session because I was actually very interested and this was very engaging.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rasha, for being the talkative one. That's fine with me. But I do give out the sheets because sometimes the people are more comfortable writing down their thoughts than speaking out aloud. So it gives a chance for them to write. And please email them because I want to read what you have written. So the overall takeaway points are a bit more about thinking about your culture, thinking about how well I can know more about my culture because of the taken for granted assumption, and what are the skills I can develop. Okay, so this is it. That's it.
Thank you very much for your time and have a great day, everyone.
So,
Okay.
Would this weekend be okay or sooner? Dr. Sahana, when do you want them?
Oh, your voice was breaking, so I couldn't hear. So it's great if they email you by Friday or Saturday, by their weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, don't delay it further because then I know people forget and then don't. So it's better if you finish it up today itself and email to Elisa. Okay. That's it.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much,
For
everyone,
this.
for your time. And I hope it made some little bit more sense. And yeah, and looking forward to more of you in the future.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you,
Sahana.
Emma. Thank you, David. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Sahana. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.